What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Grab Your Torch with Caleb and Joel. We are here to recap episode 5 of Survivor 46, in which we finally had a turn for the good. Some may say this was the first episode of the season, by how we actually had some more progressing storylines, and we didn't get back-to-back episodes with the same result, which we had the last two episodes were all about Banu. But now we're able to talk about another tribe and another tribe who went to tribal, which who was expecting, Siga to go to tribal this week? Because I really wasn't. I was like, I don't know how it couldn't be anyone other than Yanu going back. But what were your thoughts on the episode, Joel?
Definitely breath of fresh air, I'd say. This is a very good episode, at least comparatively to all the rest we've had. I think it was good to finally see the other dynamics of the tribe. It was cool to see Yanu finally win one and the emotions that came of it. And I think this was probably the best episode gameplay wise, where this was a very complex round from the journey to Jim's idol to the social gameplay. Plus Tiff not having to make a decision on cutting Q or Tiffany. I think this was a pretty good episode overall, and it left me in a spot where I am hoping for more.
Yeah, me too. I was just looking at kind of the episode holistically, and I just enjoyed kind of each of the little chunks that we got. We got to see a little bit of the aftermath of like Yanu without Bonnie, and seeing kind of how Q was like, "Hey, I'm done. I'm not quitting. I'm just accepting." And he tells that to Kenzie. But then he says in confessional that it's actually a strategy um to get Kenzie kind of let her guard down so that when they blindside her, it won't be a big deal. What did you think about this gameplay?
I think it's kind of low key an interesting idea. For our Australian Survivor viewers, this did happen. Spoiler, not really, but like it does come into play where people do use this idea of quitting because Australian Survivor is just honestly harder than US. So like quitting is kind of more commonplace and people use that. And so I think it's actually a low key a great idea to do this, especially for in Q's position where if you can let Kinsey get her guard down, someone who is obviously a better social player than him, even though he is a good social player. But it gives you that little edge to maybe get Tiff on his side where she really does seem like pretty conflicted on who to pick.
Absolutely. And I am excited to see the three of them go to the merge next week and see what that looks like. How are they going to navigate with the three of them? Are they going to stick together? I feel like for sure that, Tiff and Q will stick together from what we've seen.
Mhm.
But will Kinsey be a part of them as well? I don't really see them going like like Tika 3. I don't really see that
I don't see it
happening.
either.
Um, but I do see them working together at least in the short term, and
Mhm.
I feel like something would happen. I don't think Q would throw out Kinsey like right away,
I don't
um,
think
but
so.
I think he knows that she's dangerous and might target her later on. But I
Mhm.
think that for the time being they'll stick together. But we'll see. Next week they didn't really have much this week except for getting the dub, which was I think it was like the exact same challenge. They had it last season too. With the climbing like to the top of the three like little towers and
Yeah, I like
unputting the
this
bag.
challenge.
Yeah, I like the challenge too. And then the slingshot's always fun.
Mhm.
Dramatic ending. And then Q hits it and they actually win. And I think that was just kind of a breath of fresh air for everyone who was watching. It's like, oh my gosh, we could see them go again. And we got to see Jeff kind of be a
Yeah.
little sassy at them about how bad they are at Survivor, about
He was
winning.
like, "What? What?" He also brought up the a bunch of statistics about how they're the worst tribe in the new era, which kind of goes into how production kind of looks into Survivor. Like they truly think like this is like season like what 26 of the show. Like this, it like all the rest of the era is gone. Like we're restarting essentially.
Season 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So That's how it is, but it was very interesting and cool to see their like human emotions out of it. They finally like all they talk about is just getting sleep,
Yeah,
they can eat, and I think that's going to be a huge boost going into the merge, like for letting them be more together during this.
yeah. And this episode was also a massive Hunter episode too.
Yes, let's get into Hunter because I think this was obviously Hunter. If you guys haven't seen, was the first overall pick. I picked him. I've been on the Hunter train this whole time. And something that kind of bothered me was when Randon and Venus and him were looking for the idol. He was like, I should be the one who found it. Like, I'm the one searching the most. And he doesn't get it. I was like, crap. Like I felt like for his edit, he needed to get the idol. And then
Yeah,
here in front of Venus, he finds it. And I'm like, he's back. He's so back. Like I knew this is huge for Hunter. I think Hunter in general is a very good player. But when you're like that big of a person and like that clear of a threat, you kind of need something to mask it a little.
yeah,
Like I don't really like Jonathan did a very good job of like managing his threat. Like he humbled himself a lot out there. Obviously, he blew up towards the end, which is why he was probably never going to win. But like with Hunter, he's just like a very like shy, like introverted guy. And that means he's not perceived as this huge social threat. And him getting this idol was super funny. How Venus was just so blunt with him. How do you
yeah.
feel like Venus was to
Yeah, I
like?
know that just was a very bad look from her, I feel like. I just don't understand how that could have been beneficial for her to just be like, "Oh yeah, you're a shield for me." You know, basically saying, "Yeah, I'll work with you, but I want you to go first before me," which is what kind of everyone is thinking in the game. You want everyone else to go before you, but her actually saying it to his face is kind of bold.
Yeah, to say
And
the
I
least.
don't know how wise that gameplay was. Like I think she's just a really fun character. She might be an easy consensus vote next week.
I am a little worried that she might be the merge vote, this like Sydney style edit
Yeah.
of someone that like I love Sydney during that season. She got a lot of screen time and like a lot of focus on her. But then she was the merge of Vu. I could totally see that for Venus here. But yeah, Venus edit kind of, or just like in general, like her gameplay hasn't been as strong. Her reads were very good to begin with, but now she just got idol snuffed. Her idol essentially like snuffed right under her nose,
Yeah.
which puts Hunter even in a bigger position coming into the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we can talk about the journey a little bit. Um, the journey was kind of interesting this time. We just had they were able to talk a little bit more and like have, cross tribal, conversation. Um, which we saw a little bit with like Banu last week, like kind of sharing, or 2 weeks ago when he was sharing about, his tribe dynamics.
Hmm.
But now we got to see like Q come up and kind of just be like, hey, why these us three guys are kind of big targets. Like we're, the strong guys on each of our tribes. Why don't we all pull in someone and
Yeah,
help with the
why
six?
did they ever let those three?
I know. That was just yeah. Like
We
you
like they
yeah,
just saw 44. They just saw Danny and Brandon do that. And like
yeah.
Carolyn was at least there to like be funny about it, but also like to temper it. Here,
Right. And now
it
it's all
seems
three,
like
it's three. Yeah.
this isn't like one of those where you saw like people every time they go to the journey and they're like, hey, we're gonna be buddies, we're gonna make an alliance.
Right. And
Like
no, it
this
was
seemed
like
like a
a
legitimate
legit, yeah.
thing
And we could
where
see there's a reason the show put it in too. I feel like
yeah,
we might come back to it later. I hope it's not just one of those things where they just like kind of add and then it's never talked about again. And you're like, what happened to that thing that they showed? Just never mentioned. Um, so we could see, the fruits of that as soon as next week, like, what do you think? I feel like those six are people that I'm personally kind of rooting for, like Tim and
yeah,
Maria. We had Hunter
Tevin
and
and
Tevin, and
yeah,
then
Q and Tiff.
yeah, Q and Tiff, and those are all like six people that I really enjoy. I want to see go far
I
too.
I appreciate from a gameplay wise, like I think this was like very good episode for Q.
Yeah,
Q's such a weird like person to like perceive in the game where like I want to say he's like gonna go on and win, but like I don't know, like he has his ups and he has his downs and
yeah,
you can tell he's actually a very good player. Like the fact that he is like this huge guy and he got lucky going with Hunter and Tim, but he came in with like a plan. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't just like, hey, let's like get to the merge. Like he was like, each one of us takes one person and then we could go from there. And even from Q's point of view, like, yeah, you take Tiff, but like you're essentially taking Kinsey as well, where like you're naturally gonna have her as a number.
yeah.
And I think it's just a good move all around. But let's get to what are your thoughts on like the actual like puzzle? Do you think you could have done that?
Oh, I did it in like 2 seconds in my head.
Really?
Yeah, I can list them all in order
I'm sure I
personally.
could.
Yeah. I think some of the like the big super fans can really do it. Like it's still a hard challenge if you like even if you have seen all the seasons, like
Hmm.
and especially Hunter, like he said he didn't even watch them in order. He just watched, with his friend and stuff. Like it's kind of hard. But for me, someone who spends just a lot of time about like researching Survivor, watching videos about Survivor, I kind of just like knew it. I don't know. I
Yeah. I would just have to think about the winner and then I could probably get it from there. I don't know like straight up logo, but like winner wise, I could definitely do it.
yeah, no, I can do logo. Like I think because the all kind I guess yeah, there's just the name of the season. I think like you say Cagayan, I know it's 28, you say
Mhm.
Pearl Islands, I know it's 7, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
So, I mean, bummer for Hunter, but like, you know, also I wanted to talk about this because I've been racking my head about this. How is he like allowed to compete in this? He does not have a vote. Like he didn't have a vote to lose.
Right, right, yeah. Like
So does he just lose two votes? Like, does he get his
no,
idol and he still loses a vote?
I think the one with the idol thing is just like he loses his vote, and I don't really get that because you don't really lose your vote until you go to tribal and it says you don't have a vote.
And
So
it's like okay.
yeah, it's like it doesn't really matter unless he just like happens to not get unlock his idol before tribal.
Hmm.
And since they're going next week, I guess that means he won't get his idol, or like I don't even know how that works.
I don't get it either because it incentivizes you throwing the challenge then.
Right, which I don't like.
Yeah, I feel like there's gonna be like a chance for him to get it
Yeah.
because I feel like they wouldn't like stifle gameplay like that.
No, no. So
And
it's
I
just very
do,
kind of unclear and just
yeah,
weird. I don't know. Like you don't have to do the whole lose your vote thing. Just like you'll get the next clue when you lose a challenge. I think that would make it fine.
yeah. I do want to point out because I was listening to a podcast. Rob has a podcast. They mentioned how Jesse and Omer came into the merge without a vote, and so did Austin, and they all went very, very far.
Yeah.
I do think it is a benefit to not have a vote in that first merge because the merge or an emergatory view is usually like a consensus target to get through it. And so you not having a vote really like basically skips that round of gameplay and you're able to reconnect, make these bonds, and if you can stay safe that round, like you're golden. So I think Hunter will be a good spot where he's going to have people trying to protect him as a shield, and he has the idol. So I feel pretty good about him just losing his vote. Like obviously, it's not going to be good if he loses it twice in a row,
Yeah.
but I do think he's in a decent position to make it through this round.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um I guess we can talk a little bit about like Nami as a whole. Like how do
Mhm.
we how do we see that tribe going to the merge? I think they're gonna just absolutely collapse.
Oh,
Because
they're done.
they're done. Like I think Hunter and Tevin are just a pair. They're kind of running the show over there.
Hmm.
Liz is just kind of like no man's land, like
Yeah, I
she's
she
not
does have
really attached to
anyone.
anyone. She could honestly, I could see her being a migratory boat. Like everyone just like kind of, yeah, I'll hop on that.
Yeah,
Not for
like
any particular reason. Like all that we've gotten from her is that she's allergic to everything and that she has like
she's
5
rich.
businesses and she's rich and
Yeah,
no one wants
she
to
could
date her.
be. I think naturally she would be such an easy target because I
Yeah.
feel like everyone would want to take out Nami because there's already six.
Yeah.
And she like, even
I
though
mean, there's
he,
5.
oh, I forgot yeah, he did fall. I mean, yeah, but also Nami hasn't had to go to tribal, and they haven't been able to test the lines. Like,
Right.
and I think that's something very underrated. Like, you have to put like lines in the sand to
Yeah.
prove.
Yeah,
Obviously,
before.
Hunter and Tevin are together. Andy Griffith Alliance, they're gonna go deep. But there's a lot of them there that I don't really have confidence in. Like Soda, her
Right.
edit's plummeting.
Yeah.
Liz, her edit's never been good. Venus, I
Venus is
think,
just kind of volatile, like of
yeah,
as a player.
where we are seeing like her point of view, and you're like, oh, I feel bad. But then like I feel like a lot of people ignore the fact that like most people on Tribe is like she's being very annoying.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I
where I
mean,
think
she
both
is
can be
kind of
true.
I was like, oh my gosh, why would you just say that to Hunter when he was like, like trying to look for the idol, and she's like, oh yeah, you're a shield for me.
Yeah, it's like that's such a perfect opportunity
Yeah.
to like like you're one on one. Like why aren't you conversating?
Yeah. So
Um,
the three of them, I guess the three women on that trial, I was kind of worried about, and Tevin and Hunter are huge threats too. Like I don't see them necessarily making it to the end. Um, and then we could go over to Stiga, which we had the majority of the story.
yeah, this is a
Um,
big Sega episode,
big
which I
Stiga
really
episode,
enjoyed. This was a
and
great.
yeah, there was just a lot of good moments as a whole. Like in Stiga, like you just really, it's like a nuclear family. Like everything's fine, and then under the
Then it
surface,
blew up.
yeah, it just blew up.
I wanted to ask you about how obviously this is like a very funny. This is what probably one of my favorite tribals of the new era
Yeah.
personally because of how much happened and how good the editing was. Truthfully, I did not think Jim was going. But for you kind of mentioned it, but like, what do you think about Jim's move of rehiding the idol, causing this chaos, and basically giving Tim explicit immunity because everyone thinks he has an idol?
I feel like I just really can't talk enough about how like a bad of a move I think it was. Like we talked about it a little bit last week, but first off, like it's a lose-lose situation. Like first off, when you rehide it, maybe you get the target off your back, like if you're lucky. Like they don't
Yeah,
figure out it's you that did it. And then you have your whole tribe search for 3 days digging and digging and digging to try to find this thing, and you're digging with them because you want them to think that you have it. So you're just spending all this time digging in this hole for no reason. Like, what's the goal? Like, I guess to get the someone landed the idol here. We don't know who it is, and
uh,
if she does end up playing the idol at tribal, everyone knows it was her that did it, and then they'll get pissed at her for making them dig for 3 days. But if she doesn't play the idol, she goes home. It's a lose-lose situation. And I think this was just like the result of being stir crazy for not going to tribal for a week. Like I think and it had been 3 days of them digging before they went. So I don't know. It was just not a good move in my opinion. And then the way that she kind of played it socially afterwards, like Tim kind of confronting her and being like, "Hey, you have the idol. Tell me about it." And
that was great. That
her
was a
getting
great
super
conversation.
defensive. Um, and then her being like, "All right, tell me who you want to vote out." And then she went that and did that to like each person. And that
Hmm.
was another you know, kind of
Yeah,
moment where it's like she's kind of playing too hard and they can recognize that.
exactly. And I think my favorite moment of this entire episode and what I personally want to get into is the conversation between Ben and Jim, where Jim pulls up this machete and Ben's just like basically beating around the bush, not purposefully, but he's just like being himself and being goofy while Jim's trying to be serious with a machete. And so he picks up a hammer to like basically defend himself. And in this conversation, basically he's like, "Oh gosh, like this is bad." And this is where I think genuinely, if I am just pointing, this is one of the most underrated moves in the new era. What Ben did is like mathematically like so improbable. I can't like because he everyone thinks he has a vote, which he doesn't. The fact that he lied about it basically instant because if Mariah and Charlie learned he didn't have a vote, he's probably going. So he basically only shot was to convince Charlie to convince Maria, Mariah, yeah, Maria to save him. And truthfully, like the whole time you're like, oh, like there's no way Ben is staying. Like Ben's this great character, all this stuff.
Yeah,
But like Charlie fought really hard for him. And the fact that he does survive here to me is just like insanely good
yeah.
social.
Socials through the roof. I
And
think
I think it's just
him and Tim are like lock in step too.
him and
But
Charlie as well.
Tim's like Maria's my girl. But
Yeah,
Charlie and Maria are the ones that are. I think Charlie and Maria is the real pair of the tribe.
I agree.
At least from what we're shown. You know, Mariah's now stranded after Jim ended up getting the boot, so she could easily jump ship and go work with anyone. You know,
Mhm.
she has no obligation to stay
She
with
seems
CJ.
like a loyal player though. Like I
Yeah,
feel like she doesn't not necessarily like have it in her, but like I don't think that's going to be her first course of action is to jump ship. But she
right.
would be a good person to for Venus to pick up. Like her and Venus are in kind of similar positions of being on the outs. And that might be a good relationship, but going into tribal and everything, I think it just shows like where this season could go. Like the editing, I
Yeah,
truly thought like
they're
been
so
them
so
going.
messed up the last few days, like the last few weeks. Like, oh,
And it
like
shows like Bonnie, hey, I know
yeah,
Bonnie like is Jeff Pro's favorite. Bonnie is what's wrong with casting at the moment. And I think the Sega tribe is what is good with casting.
yeah,
Because all of them are playing extremely hard. Even Ben, who is out there for the vibes, is not just out there for the
yeah.
vibes. That's the front.
And they're
And
not all game bots. Like some of them are just great characters, but they're also good at playing the game. You need both.
exactly, I think Ben is like Ben's kind of like the Cody, where you're like, he is so goofy, he's so funny, but he's like actually like very good
He's
at the game.
actually really good at the game. Yeah. And
It's
so
like a different font of him.
I really I guess we can talk a little bit now about like our winner picks kind of going into the merge next week. We've seen five people go home, three of which were on my fantasy team. RIP. Um,
Not looking good.
not looking good for me. But I think it would be good to look at, maybe just who we think has a shot to realistically win.
Hmm.
Although I'm looking at this list and I can't really cross anyone off, maybe except for like Tim and Liz. Like they just don't really have anything, you know?
Yeah, I feel
Um,
like we didn't get a lot of Tim's perspective on a vote that was like very heavily dependent on him.
yeah,
If I'm just gonna name off, I'm gonna do what I did last time and name off the top three, or like the three from each tribe, I think.
yeah,
I think on Nami, I am gonna go with Hunter. It's either Hunter or Tevin, but I feel like Hunter is just shown to be like not more prominent than Tevin, but I feel like he set himself up as to be like taken out after him. Like he
yeah,
keeps talking about lowering his threat while Tevin is like actively like targeting people. And they're both social. He's like one's the king of being social, the butterfly, where Hunter's not. I think Hunter will outlast him. I don't know if Hunter wins. I feel like he could be like the final boss or like the fifth boot. But if anyone out of Nami is gonna win, I believe it's him. Out of Yanu, I'm gonna say the obvious answer. I'm gonna go with Kinsey. That's right. I'm switching it
yeah.
up. I do think Tiff. I feel like Tiff is in a position where she was like obviously the best positioned in the tribe, and we got so much of her. But I feel like if we didn't go to tribal every single time, we wouldn't have seen her as much. Where with like Kinsey, we were seeing Kinsey a lot from that tribe. Remember what Bonu said. She's the mermaid dragon or whatever. Like he said,
Yeah.
remember that, and I'm gonna remember that. I think there's a chance that Kinsey somehow makes it to the end and it's just this whole time has this massive threat on her back and somehow does it. I don't know how, but it would be cool. But my actual winner pick and who I think will win is Ben. I think Ben
Oh,
I think Ben is set up to win. If we look at
interesting.
here's how I'm looking at it. I think
You have all three on your fantasy.
yeah, that's right. I make good picks. Um when we look at Ben's game, I think Charlie's going to be like the person that eventually leads Ben to the win. Where Charlie's going to basically get his way against Maria, and then eventually Ben's going to swoop in and win and be more social. We've seen Ben be talked about as like if he gets to emerge, he's dangerous. He's going to pick up all these numbers. He's so social. We just saw him in an insane position and get out of it because of Charlie. And all you hear is about how close Charlie and Ben are. And I think that out of everyone, I do think Ben could do it. I think he could be the Cody that actually makes it to the end because I don't think Charlie's going to be necessarily that Jesse that will cut him. And those are my picks because I drafted them, honestly.
That's
So
fair.
who do you got?
I my three left are all on Sega, so I'm gonna have to go a little bit of a different route than you. But yeah,
Okay.
talking about Ben just for one more quick second, his social game is just too good, and I think people have already recognized that. That's why he was a target last week. So
Hmm.
I don't really see the longevity. Like I don't think they'll let him make it that far. And I don't necessarily see him as a huge challenge threat, able to kind of save himself through challenges. Um, so yeah, I don't know if he can kind of make it past that. And I think they see some of his game more than they saw of like Cody's game. Like people saw Cody's goofiness more than they saw his game, and I think they see Ben's game more than his goofiness, if that makes
Hmm.
any sense. Um, but going to my picks, I'm sticking similarly to you. I also have Hunter on Nami. I think he's just like, Tevin's just the outgoing one. Hunter's a little bit more reserved and introverted. But he's also playing a really good game at the same time, and he's also well integrated in his tribe, and I think can become well integrated in other tribes, like the rest of the people as well, and kind of hide in the shadows just a little bit. Yes, he is a huge challenge threat. That's another reason I could see him going far. I think he could just go on a run and win a bunch of challenges. Like we
That'd be
haven't
fun.
seen like an absolutely dominant like individual immunity challenge person in a while, like winning like 4 or 5 challenges in a season. I mean, we had Tony win 3 and Winners at War. I mean, we've had several people win 3. But like
I thought
4 or
Tony
5,
won four. I might
did
be
he?
wrong.
I don't
He
know. I
might.
thought
I think he won four.
maybe yeah, but that was like one that sticks in my mind.
But also, you didn't like need him.
Right, he didn't need him. And then for Yanu, I'm gonna go Tiffany myself. I just like same thing. Like Kenzie's just too much of a social player, and she's already been labeled as like the head of her tribe, um, by Banu, and Banu's like not even good at the game, but he recognized that, and like
Mhm.
recognized that she's kind of controlling everything. Mermaid Dragon. I just think she's a
Remember
big threat. So Tiffany, though, I think she can remain a little bit more under the radar. And because of her tight bond with Q, I think Q's the shield for her, So like when it comes down to one of them, like I think they'll be more privy to vote for Q instead of Tiff, and that will help her to go further. And she also has her idol, which hopefully she's smart enough to realize like that how to use it, and use it well. But the only thing is, she did tell, you know, Q and Kenzie about her idol, so it's a little bit more public.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that she's gonna have to worry about. But yeah, I don't know. I can see her winning, definitely. She's got a winner story. I don't really see anything that's gonna prevent her from that, personally. And then going on to Siga, I've already mentioned I don't really think Tim has a chance. I don't think Mariah really has much of a chance either, honestly. Like we just haven't gotten much from her. Um, Like we just got the jumping scene, which is hysterical, but like nothing like
So
gameplay
funny.
wise. She was just so trusting of her tribe and really thought that she was, solid with the girls and Charlie's Angels. That didn't really go well, as we saw. So to me, it's either I already kind of talked about Ben too. It's between kind of Maria or Charlie for me. Um, and I think I'm just gonna have to go with Maria. Um, She's just kind of like that Mama C kind of person, where she just has a lot of game to her.
Yeah.
And she can do well in challenges. She didn't do well in that one where she had to toss the ring. But we've seen her like carry that big puzzle block at the first challenge. Like she's physical. She's able to win stuff. I think that in addition to that, her alliance with Charlie is really good. And kind of shows like her dynamic. She is the Denise to the Malcolm, Denise one. You know, I think that Maria also has just the most leverage in her tribe,
Hmm.
like out of all the players, like even more than Charlie. Because she's ultimately the one that decided. She put her 2 votes on Jim. You know, like she was the one that said, "All right, we're doing this." Because without her, nothing could have happened. Um, so those are my 3 picks going in. Do you want to
Great
talk
picks.
real quick about who we think the boot is gonna be next week?
Yeah. In my head, I'm almost positive it is someone from Nami. I just feel it in my loins, I just my loins. I think if I had to pick someone, I don't know if Liz is really set up to be the Mergatory boot because usually the Mergatory boot is one of the biggest episodes in the entire season. And I feel like if anyone's going to be booted, it is either Venus or Soda. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna run with Venus on this one, but I wouldn't be surprised with Soda either.
Yeah, I guess I'll just like just to be devil's advocate, I'll take Soda because I think it's
Okay.
either one of them two as well. Um, just because we've gotten a lot of like the Nami dynamics, and that might be due to 90-minute episodes, but like in season pass, like we don't really know much about like the tribe that doesn't ever go to tribal. Like they haven't gone to tribal once. But we've seen a lot of like Soda being kind of antagonized. Seen a lot of Venus kind of being on the outs in their tribe. Could be either of them. Yeah, like for Liz, like we just haven't had enough for it to possibly be Liz. But it could be.
Yeah,
Like I think it's one of those
I could
three.
I
Liz
could
is the
totally see
distant
Liz
third
as like
though.
a
Yeah.
losing finalist.
Yeah.
Like
Like
she could be
she
the no
seems the
vote.
most poised for a losing finalist right now.
Yeah, because she's just gonna get there, and everyone's like, you get it. Obviously,
Yeah.
you don't want
You've been
it.
bragging about how much money you make, so obviously we're not going to get you the win. So,
Yeah. So I think it'll come down to if I'm taking a wild guess, but I'm gonna have a thing where I think it's gonna come down to Hunter and Tevin choosing between them who they want to go, where Tevin will want Soda and then Hunter will want Venus and Hunter will get his way.
yeah. And I feel like Hunter's just pretty much safe this week because he's
I
probably
think he'll
going to
probably win
win.
immunity,
He's going to win
like
immunity probably.
realistically.
Yeah.
I think that'll probably happen. I think it'll be because I think we gotten set up that like Tevin wants Soda and we've had a lot of setup between Hunter and Venus specifically.
Yeah. Soda
So
got to go to.
yeah, I think it's going to come down to like a position where Tevin and Hunter chooses between them.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back soon, like within the next probably couple days to recap the next episode because we were a little
Sir,
bit late because of Easter holidays. So I hope everyone had a good Easter. Before we
obvious.
go ahead and please leave a like on the video and subscribe. It helps kind of other Survivor fans find our channel to watch and listen to our Survivor podcast. And as we recap each episode this season, and then afterwards, we haven't really talked much about summer plans, but we'll be getting stuff then too. We're not going to be just leaving y'all hanging for the entire off season. We got to
Yeah.
have some stuff going then too. So with all that said, please go ahead and do all those things. We will be back next time to talk episode 6. Thank you guys.
See ya.